Hello there, survivors, and welcome back to Ark Survival Ascended. Today, I thought it would be a good time to try and build some Acro stables because, well, we should be getting an Acro sometime soon. Hopefully today, maybe tomorrow, but we'll see. But at least we can go ahead and design some nice stables to fit this new large dinosaur coming to the game. And yeah, maybe get it a nice home before it arrives. Get something that looks nice, that has plenty of space to keep them safe. Maybe do some breeding, and we'll see what the base grows into. I've got a vague idea of what I want to do, and that's it. That's it. That's kind of it. So I installed the mod just because, well, the creature isn't released yet. I assumed that it would have been out by now, but of course, yesterday they told us it would be delayed by at least 24 hours. So I've installed the mod just to be safe, just to kind of measure out the size we need. And I think what I'm going to go for each individual stable is a 5 wide. And then I think it's going to need to be 13 long, which is quite a bit, of course. But that should be about the right length to make sure that, like, the tail and everything is going to be inside of the stable. So I think this is going to be the rough shape. I'm just going to put this down so we can put down our Acro on the inside and kind of use that as a point of reference for like how we're doing size wise with the rest of the build. I think that's wise. And then if we have one, we can, of course, add more of these quite easily. So I've got my Acro right here. And that should fit in pretty nicely. Maybe a little bit forward. I think I might be too heavy by now with all the stuff I have on me. Yes, I am. Let me just do a little command. I don't want to show the password, though. There we go. Should be a little bit more forward. So yeah, now we can see the tail will stay inside of this shape. We still have a little bit of clearance here in the front as well. So I think that's going to be like the rough shape that we're going to work with. That's like the length and the size that we need for Acro to fit in. And I'm assuming that once the thing officially gets added to the game, it's of course going to stay the same size. So far, I think, at least visually, there's not really been any differences, you know, between the Ark Addition mod creatures and the actual versions that came to the game. So I think that's going to be about like the size that we need. And I guess then we just need to turn it into a nice looking stables, and then we can replicate a few next to each other, of course. I'm not sure if we want to like go all the way around, or maybe have stables opposite each other and then a building at the back so that it could include a base, you know, instead of just stables. I don't know. We'll see. Mostly we'll focus, of course, first on actually building the actual stables themselves before we start adding anything else. Because, well, yeah, that just feels like the best approach for a project like this. Hello there, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome in. Is the Acro out yet? I don't think so. No, I don't think so. I expect it could be out in like an hour or two if they keep the usual times, but could also be out in, you know, a day. Who knows? Who knows? Hello there. Welcome in. Welcome in, Crimson. So yeah, we have an Acro for size, basically. An Acro for scale. And I think what I'm going to go for is these barn doors, because even though it looks like it shouldn't fit out if you build walls around this, the Acro, but even Carcass and Gigas will still fit out of these 3x3 doors. So they're quite useful to keep within a reasonable scale and not having to go like, you know, insanely big, because now we could just do this. For example, I'm not saying that's what we do, but we could do this and it would still be able to fit outside, which is, of course, what we want. I do kind of like if we have maybe a little bit open like that, so you could still see a little bit of the Acro peeking outside. And I also would like some arch or supports, something to give it a bit more width. Yeah, you go make sounds. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna offset some supports here at the front. So I'm gonna add these, and then I'm gonna go back to a normal foundations and add them in these corners, just to kind of create some different supports here. So we could then make these kind of supports. It should be today, yeah. It should be released today. But who knows? Who knows? So yeah, I think if we do this, what we could then do is have some of these supports like that. Or I could flip them around. I don't know if I want to flip them around. Maybe I like a little bit of the wood texture coming through. And I think we're going to go pretty much as default Ark on this. So no custom cosmetic, I think. Just a, a good old Ark build to welcome in these creatures. So yeah, we could have a little staircase like that. I think that already shapes up a pretty nice entrance if we do it like this. And then we could, of course, have those shallow slopes there. And it also means that we could bring this across. I think this already makes for a nice little entrance. I quite like the little opening there. Of course, you could easily close it off by just going across with some full walls. But I feel like if I just do these instead, I could kind of keep those openings. The only downside is that we have those small little gaps there. I don't know. Because that would mean having these. Unless. Okay, well, he's gonna bump his head into me every time I try to go here. But we could also add even more shape to it. I'm gonna have to turn off looking on this guy, because he's gonna keep trying to look at me and bump me around, which isn't really helpful for building. Normally I like them to look around, but I don't think that's gonna work. Yeah, it was delayed, but that should be, it should mean that it should release like any time now in the next like what is it, 8 hours. So yeah, tame the new Acro. We can't tame the new Acro yet because it hasn't been added to the game yet, but we're just building the stables for it. I have heard about the Woodborn Tribes skin, but no current plans to build, because I've got so many builds that I need to finish or I want to work on. So yeah, I've been trying to tick off a few builds that I've had on my list for a while before we continue with more. So I finally finished my Gothic Citadel base, which which definitely was about time. And I also finished a new build using the Galaxy High-Tech custom cosmetic, which is a really cool one, but I hadn't really had the chance of using that one yet. But I finally managed to do so. So yeah, I think we're going to add in a little bit of that wood, because I do like that. I do think we need a pillar in here just to kind of connect those, the gates a little bit better to the sides, I think. Yeah, that looks pretty nice. A little bit of wood to blend in with those stone textures is definitely nice. And then we'll kind of see what direction this build takes. But I do kind of like this as an entrance, you know, like a nice little bit of a curve going on here. And then we'll just have to figure out the rest of the pen. I guess technically that would mean that this is where the next pen starts, right? We would have another 5 coming across here. Let's maybe see those, and then maybe another 5. Hello? Ark, please. There we go. Oh god. I'm stuck. Stuck in my spot. At least I can still build. But it's not a very... There we go. How many am I at now? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So yeah, that would be basically 3 little stables next to each other. This is Astraeos. This is Astraeos. Yeah, the log cabin, it's not like a crazy big build, but there's a lot of details there for sure. All right, so what we want to do here is, what is this? Is this like 4 in between? Yeah. So 1, 2, 3, 4. This is where the next supports should be. And then we can do that again. So 4, and then we have another corner there. So this would kind of be 3 of these stables next to each other. I think maybe it might make more sense trying to design this next to each other, because then we can kind of see what it would look like on a bigger scale, right? Like we have a few of these next to each other. We can kind of judge it a little bit better, like how or what it's gonna look like. So far that looks pretty nice, and I guess then this would be 3 high pillars as well, because that's where the gates are gonna go. It's pretty nice. So we have a gate here and another one there. Might as well add these to my hotbar because I'm gonna need them. I guess we can fill in these sides first, because I do think it's nicer if the stairs go all the way through from one side to the other. There we go. Yeah, I think that works out quite nicely. So let's place these all in on the inside, and then I guess, yeah, what we need next is these quarter walls going across, and see what that looks like. If we still like it, if we have 3 of these next to each other. I do think so. I quite like the little entrance so far. But then it's, of course, the next challenge is actually designing like a whole build around it as well. There we go. So yeah, we have these going across the front too, so that we can get that little curve going. They do not snap to pillars, no. They snap to the foundations underneath them. Or ceilings. They don't snap to pillars. Unfortunately. That's makes them a little bit more tricky to build with sometimes. There we go. So yeah, we get those arches in, and I guess all we need is getting these ceilings in place. There we go. Awesome. Yeah, I think that looks quite nice. Some big stables next to each other. So this is definitely gonna work. I don't pick them up. I delete them with G on PC, which you can only do in creative mode, I think. So I just delete them. Since I'm in creative, I don't need to pick them up, and it saves me time interacting with the structures. So yeah, I think this could definitely work as entrances for 3 stables next to each other. What's the most beautiful map in your opinion? Probably Astraeos or Ragnarok. I think those are pretty equal in my opinion. I think those both have some really nice scenery to work with and build with. Yeah, one of the two for sure. All right, let's see. What is the next step? Well, the next step is, first of all, deciding how to design the rest of the building, because we only have an entrance now. But, you know, the entrance is important, because that's one of the practical bits that needs to work. The rest, I guess, just needs to fit the Acro, and it does. Because it's quite a big creature. Hello there. Welcome in, welcome in. So yeah, let's fill in these foundations so that we don't have to worry about that and any like support if we start building the rest of the structure, and see how far we can get. But yeah, I think I'm not gonna want to use any cosmetics, or at least not custom cosmetics. Maybe we'll use some of the like the Bob Tall Tills ones, because they are kind of base game. But yeah, I don't feel like doing just a regular Ark build without any cosmetic involvements, which sometimes very fun to do. Challenge yourself a little bit. All right, there we go. Yes, the Acro does fit through the entrance, because you can even fit a Giga through these entrances. You only need a 3x3 gap for most big creatures, which is really funny. But yeah, it does fit. I'm too heavy to show, because if I ride it, it won't go anywhere. Oh no, the infinite weight's still working. Yeah, so we can do it. We just need to open the gate. And yeah, we can go out. We can go back in. We can easily fit in an Acro. And this should house at least 3 of them, I suppose. Maybe you could actually have 2 next to each other in each. You know, if you really want to, you know, have them closer together. I guess you could have 2 next to each other, probably. It's not that wide, so should work. I am building on the server, yeah. All right, let's see. So we have the entrances. Let's should we close it? No, let's just keep it open. That's fine. Let's see. For the roof, that of course is another interesting part, because well, there's a few options. Oh, don't need the Adobe structures. Let's get those out of the hotbar. Those are still left over from the pyramid that we build. So I think if I line it up with the main structure, that would be around here. And I think I want to go for these shallow roofs. So that's about 4, 5, 6. Is that... I don't know if that's gonna line up, but it might. So that would be the kind of roof. It's still quite tall because it's, well, it's just a very big building, isn't it? And then I guess we do kind of want to make sure that we have that overhang as well, right? Yeah. I think so. Yeah. That works. I don't know how much space you'll have above the stables, but I guess that's not really the purpose of this build anyway. And we could still fit a building at the very end if we want to. It's not released yet, I don't think. I just didn't want to wait, so I'm just using the modded one for size so we can build the stables before it releases for real. Alright, so I think that means that we would want to have those ramps continue like this. Right. But I do think we could maybe add some more interesting shapes here on the front as well. It's a 3 wide one. That does make it a bit more challenging, but we can change that. We can change that, of course. The only problem also is the size. So I don't think we want to change anything here on this level because that's way too low. We could potentially change something like in this kind of gap. I think that would work. So what we would do then is, first of all, we need to make this gap a little bit smaller, I think, because well, it needs to be an even gap. I guess this would be it. The only downside is that we don't really have any window pieces for like this size. That would be the hardest part about this, I think. But yeah, it does look quite nice to just have a little extra bit. It's not released yet, no. At least not when I started streaming, and I don't think it has been released since, to be fair. Let's see if I have these there. No, that's too high. I guess that's just an awkward angle. That's also like a different angle, like an awkward angle. So, oh geez, please don't get me stuck, Ark. Is there any little design that we can fit in here? No, because this is just going to block it all up. So yeah, like realistically, if we would have like a floor in here, that's kind of the size we're working with, but yeah, that's not a lot, is it? It's not a lot. I guess. Yeah, I guess the supports would be kind of here, wouldn't they? Because we just have a little bit of a weird angle here to line these up. What else could we do to give it a bit of support? Maybe all we need to do is really something like this. Is that? I don't know if that's overlapping. I don't know if that's official friendly, but just a little bit like that. Just to give the Acro a bit of like fresh air. Baby. I think that works. Because it's just to kind of give a little bit of a trim or like a little bit of interest to this roof piece. Because otherwise it's very, very boring. And I think this works for sure. I don't know if I need to extend this any further. Because no, that would already overlap. Maybe we'll keep it like this. Keep it clean. Yeah, some fresh air. You know, it's a big creature. It probably has some pretty decent sized poops as well. And we need to air those out. We need to make sure we air those out. So yeah, this would be the height. Then we could do all of those layers. I guess that would mean that I try to fill this in. Oh, but this is interesting because technically this layer out here, of course, is a separate layer, but that also means that we might be able to save on some structures here in the front. Let's just fill in this entire part with ceilings so that we don't have any gaps there at least. And I think now if I add in the railings, I should just be able to have normal railings. So that will save us a little bit of structures. Yeah, that works. So those can be the railings. That's going to be all of those little window sections. I think that looks quite nice. So we better start working out the little shape required to get these in. There we go. And I think we do that for all 3 of these. Just like that. Awesome. And then with the ramp corner pieces, we can get our little roofs in here. And then we need the ramps again to be here at the front. I think that looks quite nice. And then we have the beams on the top, just as an added bit of detail. I do think that already is starting to look quite nice. Ooh, maybe bigger middle window. Yeah, we could definitely do that because we do have a lot more height still in the whole building. So we could definitely move this around, maybe higher or just bigger. There's definitely some options there. Let's see. We do need to keep in mind that whatever we do, it does require us to play around a little bit with the roof placement. Oh, why did I delete the ceiling? I didn't want that. Okay. So now we have 5 by 5, so that would double it. So let's see if we just double it by size, what that looks like. So we'll just add this little line in here. And then should be able to... So the corner is basically going to move a little further outwards. No, but the other one was also... It started higher, right? Yeah. Because I might need that height to just clear this railing. So I might need that. Which means... That is fine. I guess we need some actual ramps now. To have these, and we can have those going back up to the top. So yeah, this should line up now. And then if we have the quarter pieces, we just need one layer here going across here, except for that one. And then we can have some extra corner pieces. There we go. That works. And then we can continue to add the railings. So it's kind of the same thing, but just a bit taller. That could look quite nice. Just as a bit of variation, basically. Yeah. I think that works. And we technically could have like a little bit above the acro, because I think it's just high enough to allow you some room there. Because yeah, this would be the very top layer, so there's definitely a little bit of clearance here that we can use. There we go. Do I want to have any other additions? I don't think so, because I think if I add any more, I might make it too busy. I'm on Astraeos. The top right of Astraeos. Oh, that's not what we want. Yeah, let's just make the whole roof first, because then we can see a little bit better if we would want to make any additions, but I don't think we need to necessarily. think we might just be good as is, but we'll see. Oh, that's a rock. Yeah, I think this works. I think this looks quite nice. Some nice and mighty stables. It's a little bit, well, it's not exactly cloudy. Well, just a bit cloudy, I guess. It's not rainy, but now we have some nice sunlight again. Yeah, that looks a lot nicer. I do like that. Yeah, I think that works. We can definitely add in some details on the inside and stuff once we grasp this a little bit better, because I think, for example, that this is a weird height I've created though. Like, this is just a very awkward height to do anything with. Can't really support that roof. I really would need to, or even supporting this roof for some reason. I guess I need to do it here. Yeah, if I want to add any supports. This, yeah, they're a bit weird spots with these snaps, but that's fine, because it looks nice from the outside, and that's all that matters for now. All right, I think we definitely also want to have the beam continue across the top of the roof. Yeah. I like that. A little bit more definition to it. And I guess, well, really all that's left is, well, there's not all that's left, but it's the rest is, build the sides and the back of the stables, of course. But that should be a pretty fun challenge. Let's see. What do we want the sides to look like? And also, do I want to have these same bits at the back? I do think that would look quite nice if we add in those same arches around the back. Just a bit of consistency, but also, I mean, I think they're just quite nice to look at to begin with. So let's start with adding those in for this part. I guess we can just kind of bring these out then to add in the rest. So we have 4 full foundations between those pieces, and this should line up again with that corner. There we go. Because yeah, I don't think we'll have an entrance at the other side, but just having the arch, I think, is going to be nice. And then we can just have some windows, I think, at the back. Let in some light for the Acro to enjoy. But yeah, I think that is going to be quite nice. So I think in the essence here, we're going to want to keep it the same. Probably can actually also add in those corners, because I'm fairly sure that no matter what we do, those corners are going to be raised up like that. So then what we do need is a few of those pillars. Actually, haven't even added them in here everywhere. So I want to have those supports going up, and then we can do the same here. For the inside, we're going to leave it open for now because, well, we might play around with some different shapes if we're going to have the windows there. And then we can have more supports along the sides. Here on the outside, of course, we definitely want to have some pillars going up. The Acro's not out yet. At least not when I started streaming. I don't think there's been any announcement yet. We're just building the stables so as they are maybe ready for when they arrive. There we go. So yeah, we will just bring in these same kind of pillars as we have on the outside, or on the front, because I think, yeah, those features were quite nice. So I think definitely worth continuing those. So bring out a few of these pieces to make that a little bit easier. We can continue this all the way across. There we are. Just like this. Create some of those arches again. There we go. And then just a few more in between. Just like that. So yeah, we got those arches ready. Definitely the roofs are not lining up the way they should. Which probably means that the roof needs to be even higher than it is. I probably miscounted these. But that's fine, because now we have the other side built. We can make sure that they meet up in the right spot. Although, oh no, I think I know what I've done. Is I've added something, haven't I? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, it's now 15. Which doesn't really work. Because we could extend it by like the half pieces, but we don't have wall pieces to make that work. We'll have a gap in our roof if we do that. So the easiest thing is probably moving this back by 1. Like these foundations. Move them back. Make these stables just 1 longer so we have a bit more room. Okay, let's clear these out to begin with. That might be the easiest way. Because otherwise we're going to have a lot of issues with the roof, and might as well avoid that. And it just means that the Acro has a bit more room on the inside. A bit more room to park it, so you don't have to be as precise without poking a tail or a nose out somewhere. Which I think is fine. So yeah, now it should be all lining up, which should be great. Which also means that we can add in these walls again, of course, to create a bit of these structures. There we go. We'll add in these quarter walls going across again. There we go. Just like that. And then I guess we can add in our pillars all the way up. It's not too much work. Luckily we found that out just in time before we made too many additions. And there we go. Very nice. Yeah, and then we can add in these arches. Add in those ramps again. All right, and then we'll have a few of those across the top. Awesome. Okay, so we have the arches back in place. Let's also make sure that we add in those pillars here on the inside again. Nope, not there. There we go. Just so that we have that consistency going on the inside. And now I'm pretty sure that everything should be fine. Actually, let's start from here so that we can line it up perfectly. So yeah, this should be where the ramps are. At least that's the same like size and snap points that we used on the other side, I'm pretty sure. So yeah, now we just raise this up by one more from that side and then we're good to go, which should be perfect. Hello there. So yeah, this should be able to go all the way across. And I think for the roof, we're going to do very similar things as on the other side, just because we have quite a nice little design going on, and that will save us a little bit of time. The main thing we need to decide is, of course, how we're going to do these walls and what kind of windows we want to have in there. But yeah, for the structure, the main structure of the building, we're definitely getting there. We can build this all the way across to get a little bit more of a proper reference. And then we... Hello there! Welcome. Thank you for becoming an architect. Thanks for the support. And it also means you get access to all of my available templates. You can check those out on my Discord. There we go. Yeah, that's a tree, but that's starting to look like something. Let's see. I guess if we do the same kind of windows, I only bring this up and bring that up on the other side. There we go. And we can definitely also continue this layer across the bottom. And then, of course, we'll have those little openings in the roof for some extra details. We can also add in these ceilings, at least across the edge. And then we definitely need to figure out what the windows are going to be like here on the back of the build. I do think what I want to do is go across with the walls at the top. Since we are just gonna build in some windows in these walls, which I think also means that I kind of just want to make sure that we go across the bottom with some walls too. There we go. Which means we have a 3x2 like gap left for a window. And I don't know if I want to just fill it in with walls, like use greenhouse glass windows or use the frontier glass as windows, which could fit. You could definitely make those fit. But I also kind of feel like we could maybe do something a little bit more interesting as well. Like, what if we do something like this and then have all quarter walls going across? We could still have pillars to the side and across the bottom here, and then maybe we could make some kind of pattern with our railings. Like, I don't know if that works, but it kind of does. And I think it just might be a little bit more interesting than having a normal window. Of course, you could easily do that. As I said, you could easily just go for the basic thing. But I think something like this might also look quite nice, because it kind of follows the same kind of arch as the archway we have right there. Which options? Yeah, I think we're gonna go for that. I think that's a bit more interesting than going for a default window. It feels a bit more fitting for this build. And then we potentially don't even need the frontier skin if we just build it up like this. We could keep it completely just a vanilla build, which I haven't done that for a while. Well, I guess the Adobe build. No, I know I still used some frontier, I think. There we go. Yeah, I think this definitely works. It adds a bit of extra structures, of course. So yeah, if you're struggling with the structure limit for some reason, then of course you could use just the normal windows. But if not, I think this definitely looks quite nice. A bit more of a custom job, but well worth it, I think. Oh wait, why are those upside down? I don't think we need those upside down, so we can add these around. There we go, and then we just need the 2 quarter pieces there and over here. Yeah, I think I like that. That should let in plenty of light. That should give us some nice visibility from inside the stables. Yeah, I quite like that. Quite like the vibe that gives. I don't think the Acro's out yet, no, unfortunately. But hopefully soon. Hopefully there won't be another delay. But yeah, it's not been released just yet, I don't think. All right, let's see. It means that we can get these windows in, right? I think that's about the size that I need for these. Yes, there we go. That's definitely what I need. So we can do the same thing over here. Bring those across. And then also add in these roof pieces. That looks quite nice. And then I think we also want to do this on a bigger scale right here. Right, something like that. I think so, at least. Let's see. So this would be then where those go. Then I would need actual ramps to help those out. We can do the same over here and over there. Get those extended, which also means we can have them in here. And of course, we can start filling in those again and fill in the rest of the roof. We can have those corner pieces here. And then we just need to fill in this little gap with a few more quarters. And then all we need to do is fill in the rest of the roof again. It's gonna give us a decent look at, well, at least the full stables building. Again, I don't really know what I want to do with this build. If I just want to keep it these 3 stables, I guess it's kind of modular, right? Because you could easily add 3 more next to it if you wanted to. You could add some opposite. I guess if you make a corner, you could make like different shapes out of this, which I guess means you could really customize this to your own needs, builds, or you could just attach it to an existing build, which is quite nice, because then you don't have to, then you have the choice of what main base you're building, I guess. And if you're unofficial, you could just kind of build these stables just out of the structure limit, and then you can have a whole new stables for your Acros. Maybe that is the best move to go for. Just keep this a separate building. Because, yeah, you could quite easily... If this is the middle, you could quite easily replicate this one on both sides. Like, you could have, like, five stables next to each other. Yeah. Very easily customizable, I suppose. Alright, so we have those roofs in. Now we just need to kind of have these railings around the edge. That really helps. Bring in a few more of those details. Yeah, that looks pretty cool from this side too. Especially like those arches, and now that the windows kind of match those same arches, that is definitely quite nice to look at. And I guess now the biggest challenges are, well, dividing up these stables as well as doing the sides of the building to make it all complete. But yeah, the Acro definitely has enough space now, because we gave it a little bit more space, a little bit more wiggle room. But I'm pretty sure that you could have 2 Acros per stables. Once we've done the whole build, we'll definitely see if we can fit them all in. I don't want to do it too early because it's just going to get a bit crowded in here. I do think you probably want to have something to separate the stables. So I'm going to start with a layer of stone walls, I think. And then we can do the opposite thing here. Just going all the way across. The Acro is not out already, at least I don't think so, but we're just making a build for when it is here. I think if we go across with these beams, kind of connects everything in a satisfying way. There we go. Now, I'm not too sure what I would want to do, because I would like to not use too many things, but maybe we can make like a custom little fence like this. Oh, that's just a bit weird. Because if we're going to stack railings on top of each other, I think it's just going to get out of the hand, like how many structures I'm going to need. So, yeah, that's the thing. I guess one thing that I could definitely add is a pillar in the middle, because that would be a nice support. For now, I'm not going to do it all the way to the top, but I'm going to do it all the way to at least where on the sides we have the ceilings, because we might have some kind of room up here, because we might as well utilize whatever extra space we end up having here. You know, in case you want to have a bit of base up here, or I don't know, you want to keep your taming stuff here. You could have some birds pocked up there, whatever you want. I think for these corners, it feels most logical just to close them in like that, which also means that we can have that pillar go to the ground, and we can have a pillar on that corner. There we go. Do the same thing here, because I just think that makes the most sense. Did I just add a quarter piece there? I did. There we go. And I guess that means we can do the same thing over here, might as well, just to keep things simple. There we go, all the way up. And we can also go all the way up on this side. Add those pillars in. And one more over here. There we go. So yeah, we definitely have a little bit of work left over to finish these the stable design, but we're definitely getting somewhere. I feel like it does kind of makes sense to maybe have a pillar here in the middle. Also, we could do something with these supports that we have on the outside. I don't know, like, how easily that would be done. Like, okay, we have one on each side. We have 2, 3, 4, 5. What would it look like? 2, 3, 4, 5. And then there's 4 more in the middle. So let's say I add something here. That does mean we have a little bit of room to play with, I think. So yeah, just to make it even, that would mean we do this. And then I think we probably want to use quarter foundations just so that we can make it the same kind of indent as we have over there. Which means we could have, oops, pillars like this. There we go. Because then we could keep kind of the extra depth here on the outside. I think that's what we're supposed to do. We can have large walls there. I think that works. And of course, at some point, we're gonna have to work in that new layer. But I do think that could start here, to be fair. Like, we could bring this across the side. There we go. Yeah, so far that feels reasonable. I kind of think that I want to bring those arches that we have on the front and the back. I kind of think I also want some here on the sides. But, oh, we could even customize them a bit more on the sides, to be fair. Because we have a bit more room to play around with. So, let's say we have these. I could have something like this. So it's a bit more of a curve. So, maybe something like that. I think that could be pretty nice. So it's still like a little bit of a new design. As in, it's not the same as on the front and the back, but it still feels in the same vibe, so it still fits, I think. And it's just going to give us some nice, interesting curved supports here along the side. Which does definitely mean we can also fill in those layers. But that's totally fine with me. There we go. And then potentially we could just have these for window shapes. I do quite like that. Then we could have our beams, of course, at the bottom of those windows. We could have pillars to begin with. And then some half pillars on top of these. Let's make sure that we clear the weather, because I do feel like it's getting a little bit cloudy again. There we go. So yeah, of course, this also means we could actually add in these supports, or they're half supports, so they are going to add a little bit of extra structures, but I think we should be fine. There we go. Just like that. Just like this. I think this is going to be quite nice. It's definitely going to add a lot of depth to the place. Makes for an interesting shape. And then we can have those pieces here. Pieces on the other side. We're just kind of going for like, I don't know, like a traditional Ark theme. We're not using any skins, etc. so far, so we're just trying to keep it like a true Ark base, which so far definitely is working. I do like these arches a lot. I think the little depth this adds is just a very, very nice touch. So I think we're going to go for the same kind of vibes for these windows again. There we go. Because there's just something nice about these patterns for windows. Don't know what it is. Maybe it's just the nostalgic feeling of these patterns. Might have to do that, and then I could do these. That looks pretty good. There we go. Yeah, I quite like those patterns, to be fair. Especially since now we kind of have the little line across the top, which I guess we didn't really need here because we already did the custom line. I don't think the update's live yet, no. There we go. Yeah, I like these windows. I think this looks great. It adds a lot of depth to these sides with those quarter insets. The arches are some cool shapes. So I think it definitely does the trick. And it leaves us with still a bunch of room to play with here for the upstairs area. So I think what I want to do is raise these up. Because we do have a bit more space left here. And I think we're going to want these on the hotbar for sure, because we're going to need a lot of the wood textures here now to get the rest of this stables ready. Just trying to see if there would be any more windows here, but maybe not. Let's just fill in the sides a little bit, see what it looks like. And then we can add in some details where we see fit. That might be a good way. Yeah, the unfortunate thing about these is that there's always going to be a little gap if they're at the top, which is a bit of a shame. Because, well, we can't really afford building the entire base with, like, quarter walls just to make sure they line up. That'd be a bit silly. There we go. So, yeah, this would be kind of the shape until the middle. We definitely want to have some kind of entrance in the middle, though. If we want to use it for like flying into the top here, maybe using this as a pen for some of your flies, etc. So potentially we could just raise those up. I feels like a line that makes sense, and I kind of think it just makes sense to also raise up these since, well, they're pretty much there already. Just keep those supports going. That feels quite natural. I'm very tempted to keep this open and just be able to fly in and out instead of closing it off completely. So for example, if we would start with the shape like this, we could add something like that. That doesn't line up at all. There's even more gaps, which is quite annoying. We could fix that if we use a bunch of quarter pieces, just to make sure we have no gaps. There we go. We could have something like that, like an open space so you can fly in and out with flyers. I think that's the most logical use of the top of this build for sure. Let's see, because we can add a few extra details, like the typical kind of details that we tend to do, like bring out these, so you can add some details around your windows, maybe some plants and stuff, because we definitely want to bring in some green and stuff. I think it's always a nice way, and it adds even more depth to these little side bits. Yeah, I think that works quite well. We could add the roof here, but I kind of like how clean this looks. I don't think I want to add that in right now. I think the same thing we could do here. We could add these little details around these windows just to make them even more interesting to look at. There we go. Just like that. Yeah, I quite like the simplicity of this top bit, to be honest. I don't know if I want to add like too many additions to it. First of all, I think we need to kind of figure out what the inside would even look like. Because I don't know if I want to necessarily just add ceilings everywhere. Let me see. Oh yeah, the pyramid base is huge. Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I don't really know exactly how much of this I'd want to have ceilings. Maybe something like that. But there's also, of course, a point where this is not all very usable. So you'd probably want to have something like this again. And then I guess this is what you would do to close those gaps. Give it a bit more shape here on the inside as well to work with, so it's a bit more logical. You can fill in those gaps. Because that would be a terrible place to end up in and just fall down. Okay. I do think adding in these bits makes a lot of sense. Just to kind of make it all a bit more natural. And I think that probably will still give us enough space. Right? There we go. We'll just fill in this one side and see what it's like. The Acro is this is a new creature that's coming to Ark. It should be coming today. It was delayed yesterday, but it should be coming today. So we're building some new stables for it. There we go. So yeah, I think if we add in a few things like this, that works quite well. And we still have like a pretty usable space up here for, I mean, I'd probably just park my flyers in here, but I guess you could make it a little base if you wanted to. Okay, come on. Adding all those side bits in. There we go. Yeah, that gives a little bit more structure here to the inside, for sure. Like, it kind of helps shape up the inside of the building as much as the outside. And if we really want to, I guess what we could do is add these supports. I think that could be nice. Just to shape up the rest of this interior a bit more. I think this is then, of course, where we would have this again. There we go. But yeah, I do think that works. So I think we'll stick with that plan if Ark lets me move again. I think we'll stick with that plan and we'll just start filling in this side as well. So up to there. I do think we want to keep a little bit of the middle opened up to keep that stable feel. But again, it's all kind of down to what your purpose is with the build. If you're just going to use it as a stable, that's probably fine. If you want to use this as a base, you might want to utilize all of the space up here. But that's quite easy. It's just filling it in or don't fill it in. It's not that difficult to figure out what you want. But we're going to make sure that we make this upstairs area of the stables look as nice as possible. What would be a good way? I think we would at least have two parts here. There's not a lot of room though if we do this. Yeah, this is why we probably want to not fill in the middle too much. But what we then could fill in is, I think, these. So we could have a few connective walkways between the stables. That should be fine. And then you should have no issue dismounting. So yeah, if you're on this guy, like, you should be able, well, you're kind of on the side anyway, but yeah, you shouldn't be, it shouldn't be too difficult to kind of park this guy in, get out without bumping your head, and still have a decent amount of space. Yeah, I definitely think we can have two of them next to each other in each part, which is nice. This is the Acro. But yeah, I think that's gonna definitely work. So we'll have another layer here. So that leaves these gaps in between. But I kind of like that because it is an Acro Stables after all, or whatever tame you want to keep down there. So it makes sense that you can see them quite easily. I don't know if I'd build in like a staircase to get up here. Maybe we could have some ladders somewhere if you really want to be able to get up here by foot as well. But yeah, I assume that mostly the top here is going to be accessible by flying up. There we go. We're just going to add these railings because we do want to keep this safe, of course, so you don't fall down all the time. Let's take out those, fill these all in. There we go. And then I guess, yeah, we definitely want to add in a few more of these side supports because I quite like the way that they shape up the room. You could, of course, do a secret doorway so you could hide some storage or something inside there. Which could be quite smart, of course, because you could have like a generator or whatever you need. Just some storage easily inside of those wall bits. There we go. We'll add all of these in. Awesome. And I guess on this side, of course, is going to be the main bit there. So we want to fill in these. And then we should be able to fill in all of these little gaps. Just as we did on the other side. There we go. Man, if there's still no Acro, we might actually finish the whole stables before the release. That's quite nice. Alright, so yeah, I think what I'd want to do is keep that same pattern going and go all the way up and across. Because, I mean, just gives the inside a bit more structure. Looks a lot nicer too. So I think it's definitely well worth your time. There we go. And then we can just keep continuing this all the way down the sides. So yeah, potentially you could even add like more ramps, but that's gonna add a lot of structure, so I don't think I'd want to do that. But yeah. Stop using stairs and TP to all the levels of your base. Yeah, if you set up default TPs and stuff, it's so much easier and it saves so much space. There we go. Can have more of those supports going across, giving more shape to the upstairs here. Oh, not like that. And we can get this all the way across to the other side. So I guess there's one more support before we can work on the opposite wall of the stables. And then we're definitely getting very close to having a fully realized Acro Stables. Well, I keep calling it Acro Stables, but of course, any tame that fits inside, you could use these stables for. Like, pretty big creatures should be able to fit inside. Especially if you take out these, the second layer. There we go. Well, I think this side definitely looks very nice. So I think it's time to do the same thing over here on this side. So we get all of that in shape. I think the first thing we want to do is just kind of do this layer, but I guess the very first thing we need to do first and then is to add these quarter ceilings so that we can actually build the walls. There we go. So yeah, now we should be able to take out all pillars and we should be able to add them in the places where we need to. I guess technically we can just bring these all the ways down because that's what the supports are going to be. And we can do the same thing here. And we can bring it all the way down. I think this would actually match up pretty good with the log cabin build. Like if you had the log cabin build right there and you needed some more dino storage, I think this could fit quite nicely. There we go. The pyramid, yeah, that's a pretty cool build, especially for a desert theme. There's just something about pyramids that they always look quite cool. Okay, let's add in these supports where we need them. Very nice. It also means, well, of course, we can start adding in the walls wherever we need them. Just to get this show on the road a little bit more. There we go. We can go all the way up. Do the same here. And then it's time to shape up this build. I think I did something like this. Pretty sure at least. And then I think... yeah, I think I did this. Then we had a layer of these to line up, and then we had a layer of those to line up with the final pieces here. There we go. And then some railings just to give it a bit more character. And that's kind of like the top wooden bit. With the bunker build, did you use any other mods as well as the bunker structure mods? Yeah, I use more. I definitely use more. Bunker is the biggest part, obviously. There we go. I'm on Astraeos right now. There we are. So that's the top bit. Now we just need to build these bottom ones so we can take out a few of these structures again. Well, we're gonna need that one. I think this is about what I need. I'm not sure. We'll find out soon enough. We'll add those quarter pieces. Then we can add... well, we should definitely be able to add the large wall there. There we go. We actually also should be able to add them in here. There we go. Let's just shape up these now before we start adding in the details. There we are. Looks quite nice already when the build takes shape like this. There we go. We'll add in these. Yeah, this has come together surprisingly well so far. I quite like the whole vibe we've managed to get going. It's never really certain what you're gonna end up with. There we go. Add these supports in as well. There's still no announcement from Ark. Damn. Ends up the Acro's just an April Fool's joke. I guess for them, they still have a lot of hours left, I suppose. For me, not that many hours left for the day. But at least we'll be ready with some pretty nice looking stables. Alright, let's see. We have all of these layers now. We can add in our railings to get these windows going. Just like that. Keep those goings all the way up. Yeah, I definitely think this fits the vibe with the with my log cabin build quite well, which could be a really cool combo, of course, because then you could have your main builds and then this next to it for some more dino storage. And this is quite customizable. Like if you need it to be longer, for example, that wouldn't be too difficult to do. All right, let's clear this out. Maybe also make it a little bit earlier so we don't lose the light anytime soon. We have all windows in the sides now, but we also want to get those curves in. So we're gonna add these walls to the corners here. We're gonna add our shallow slope walls first. Create that little curve and then the steeper part down there. Just like this. And then we can have our quarter walls to fill in the gaps here. There we go. And then we should be able to fill in these. There we go. Just a bit here and a bit over there. Yeah. Get those nice arches ready for us. And then we just need to fill in these bits, of course. Make sure there's no gaps there, because otherwise it would look a little bit silly. But this should get us done with this side as well. Definitely it looks quite nice. And if we really wanted to, I guess you could also kind of extend this a bit by like maybe adding in a little bit of this. Remove these beams here. But yeah, you could add, you know, it would help with making these walls less flat too. We could kind of extend these a bit. There we go. I think that just helps, making it a little less flat, even though the wall isn't really flat. But just adds that little bit of extra detail. And I think, you know, really to embrace the Ark vibes, you could even add like a trophy right there to help out with that. There we go. Yeah, I do think I want to add these with a little addition here too. we are. And then a few supports and some railings around the outside. And if we really want to add some additional details, it's always quite nice to have those on the corners just to make it look a little bit nicer. We could do that here as well. Get those corners ready. There we go. And we can add these in everywhere. Awesome. So yeah, we do have a little bit of space up here to park some flies, etc. Because you might as well utilize all that space. It's definitely looking quite nice. There's a lot of these arches and adding a little bit of depth to it. What's this? There's a random little piece we definitely don't need. Don't know if we need anything else to break up the roof. I feel like that's just gonna make the roof very busy, and I'm not sure it necessarily needs that. What we do also need to look at is actually on the inside again, because we do have these pillars in place, but I think we can even add some supports to them by doing something like that. Just to make that all feel a little bit more connected. Not sure if this is gonna improve it much, but just kind of feels maybe a little bit more's going on here. And I guess we could just at least have one layer of these railings to kind of finish off these dividing walls. There we go. I think that looks quite nice. Yeah, so you have some rather big stables here to fit in these new big boys. And I think, yeah, you could definitely add 2 to each, which would be great for your breeding, because you could just do it inside quite easily. You have some extra room up here to keep some taming stuff or breeding, imprinting stuff available for your acros whilst you work on them. I think that's quite convenient. Let's get a few extra acros in. Let's see. We can get a few of them hopefully in here. So that should fit. Should be a little bit more forward, I guess. There we go. Might have to move them a bit, but still gonna be too heavy with all of my building stuff. But at least this kind of signals how many you could easily fit inside here. Which is all the purpose, of course. Makes for a nice breeding thing. This is Dino Depot, the balls that I'm using. And I'm using the awesome Ark tools to just spawn things in quickly from the menu. But yeah, I think that really works. Got our Acros looking quite cozy. Definitely would want to add a little bit of greenery around, you know, add some stuff, some overgrown bits here and there. What I also would like to do is have a Rex trophy. Nope, that's the bone helmet. Where's the there we go. Because if we have 2 of those, we can add them right here at the end. Just as a bit of decorations. Keep those Ark vibes going. There we go. I think this looks quite nice. Cozy stable building for new predator that hopefully will still arrive today. I don't know. I don't see a ping yet, so I don't think it's launched yet. But we got our stables ready for them. We got our stables ready for sure. So yeah, what I would do then, I use a lot of JVH, of course, to add in a few extra details. You could use the plant pots for a lot of this as well, if you're an official, or of course cosmetics. But yeah, definitely like to have a few plants out here. That always looks great. Those look quite nice. And then what else do we want to add? I guess we could add a little bit of decorations on the inside as well. Like we could add some hay bales from Western Deco. And then we also want to do the misc item from Western Deco because it starts with a bunch of clocks, but it ends with some hay on the ground. And that's always a nice addition as a little bit of detailing to add to these stables, I think. There we go. So we'll add a few of these in. And then, of course, we got a bunch of the hay bales that we can add just to bring a little bit of like character to the place, basically. There we go. Just adding a few of these in along the sides. Oh, we're inside of a Acro right now. Because they're all looking around at me. But yeah, we should be able to add a few of these hay bales around just to give it a little bit of character and fill up these stables. There we go. Try not to get stuck in the acros. Very nice. And then I guess the feeding trough, or we want to maybe just use... Well, I feel like the rustic, the normal one might fit better in these vibes. So we could have some food for each of them. I guess here at the back, it might not be a bad idea to add a little bit more, because there's quite a lot of space in here anyway. If we don't get beaten around with the tails too much. There we go. So we can just add a few bits around the back as well, just to add that little bit of extra character and detailing around. There we go. Oh god, I keep getting tossed around by those tails. Please don't do that. Leave me be. There we go. Yeah, just a bit of bit of character. Just a bit of character. Yeah, and then also what I like doing is adding a little bit of greenery if we have these ledges. Don't know what would be fitting because it is kind of just a barn, so wouldn't want to have too exotic of plants, I guess. But just for a little bit of greenery, I think it's a nice addition. There we go. Maybe easier just to go around and add a few of these in where I see fit. There we go. And we've had this side. And we can just add a little bit of greenery around everywhere to make this stand out a little bit more. Yeah, they do add a lot. It's amazing what a bit of greenery can really do to a build. Okay, I think we definitely also want to have some kind of growing on the roof. And I like using this plant specifically just to make my own kind of growing vines on the rooftop. I think we're gonna go all the way out here so it can kind of stick out a little bit. And I think we're also gonna try and get this one a little bit over onto this side of the building. Just trying to make it feel alive. There we go. Oh, that's double planned. And then I guess we could do a little bit of it over here on this edge too. There we go, something like this. Just bringing a touch of greenery to the place. There we are. Just that touch of green really changes the feeling of a build a lot. The mod with the hay, that's Western Deco. Western Decor. Definitely a really good one. Even if you're not doing Western builds, just the hay and stuff is well worth it. I've got a few videos of like my top 10 mods with a lot of the mods or cosmetics that I use all the time, which of course are all building related, decorating builds, or just useful tools. So I've got a few of those mod showcase videos or lists out now. Because yeah, there is definitely a few mods that I kind of always tend to use, which are really useful just to bring a bit of character to the build. Yeah, the Western Decor has a lot of options, not just for specifically Western builds. It's a great collection of decorative pieces. to help add more character to your builds. Really makes you wish that we would have a few more like decorative things in the base game itself. Yeah, I think that little bit of greenery just really helps make this stand apart a bit more. I don't know if I want to add too many like vines and stuff hanging down, but at least this already helps out a lot. I think what I want to do is maybe add these open a little bit so we can see all Acros on the inside. But yeah, I do think we're pretty much there. I think this is a functional stable. You could definitely use this for keeping your Acros safe, doing your breeding projects with them. Yeah, hopefully we'll get the Acro now. That's what we need. Got the stables ready. We've got the modded Acro, but we want the real one, the actual one in the game. But still don't see a ping, so I'm guessing it's not looking too good about it getting released, for me at least, on time today. Oh, I'm getting stuck in this Acro again because it's looking at me. Hello, can you please not look at me? There we go. Thank you very much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, I think that is pretty much it. We've got a functioning stables for the Acro that you could easily add alongside your existing base. And besides the Acro, of course, it should fit a bunch of different creatures as well. But yeah, hey, you know, it's something. It's something, and I think it looks quite nice. Just the default Ark vibes, no cosmetics or anything. Just some cozy vibes to keep your Acros safe. Look at that. Look at all that. Absolutely perfect. Well, maybe not perfect, but it's looking very nice. It's looking very nice. I don't know what my stream's doing. It seems to do some weird things, but I think we're done building. I think we've got our stables ready. Now it's hoping that it doesn't take too much longer for them to actually release the actual Acro. But yeah, I don't know. I just felt like doing a stables build for this guy, I think, is going to be a fun addition to Ark when they finally add it. And maybe this will be useful. I'll probably turn this into a video, a tutorial, so you can follow along. I might do some little tweaks and adjustments if I think of something in the next few days, and then hopefully we'll be able to get this out pretty soon. But no, this is the mod. This is the mod still, because the official one is not being released at the moment, but hopefully will be soon. But it should be the same. Like, it should be the same, like, at least size-wise and looks-wise. Maybe they'll change it a little bit, but it should be pretty similar, at least. So yeah, anyway, that's going to be it for me today. Yeah, some fun Acro stables. I've got some fun videos coming up. Finished my Gothic Citadel build, which should be out soon. I've done a spaceport breeding base with the Galaxy High-Tech cosmetic, which is a really fun one. Really fun one. And yeah, now we have some Acro stables too, ready for whenever they release the Acro itself. Hopefully it will still be today, or well, for me, it's getting less likely. I've got like 2.5 hours left for today, but hopefully it won't be delayed too much longer. Hopefully they will actually release it for them on the 1st, and I'll wake up with a nice Acro tomorrow. That would be cool. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the build. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, or follow wherever you are watching. And feel free to leave more suggestions, either in the comments on YouTube or the comments everywhere, I guess. Or join my Discord and leave some suggestions there. And of course, share your awesome builds. Or join the community servers I have for free. But yeah, it's going to be it. Thanks for joining me today, guys. And I hope to see you again in the next video or the next stream. For now, goodbye.